Good evening. Welcome to Book and Now. I'm your humble host, Q. I want to thank you all for joining me again today on this continued journey of empathy, growth, and understanding. Remember, if you want to be a guest on the show, you can visit our website, www.bookandnowtv.com, and I would love to hear from you and learn from your experiences as well. Today, we have two very special guests on the show today. Our first guest is Gillie Haynes. She is a highly sought after public speaking coach, professor, journalist, and just authored her second book, Because I Was Feeling Mighty Free. I want to thank you for on the show.
Thank you for
Ms.
having
Gillie
me,
Haynes.
Q.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with communication being in books and speaking, I understand you do things with CDs as well.
Well, just getting started
Just
with
getting
the
started
just getting
there.
started with the CD.
But what sparked your interest in communications?
When I was younger, I always talked a lot, and I think people who say they talk a lot end up leaning toward that field.
Sure.
And so communications was the vehicle that I thought would be the place to express myself the best.
Right.
And so as a person who enjoyed talking, I enjoyed writing, so I figured out how do I combine the two, and it became journalism.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'll major in journalism, and I started working as a journalist, and worked as a journalist for a while. I did some print, some broadcasting, and then decided, as listening to people, people need some help.
Sure.
Because being interviewed, they couldn't find the right word, didn't seem as comfortable when they asked questions, and I thought they just need a little coaching, and they'll be just fine because they know the information. If you're the subject matter expert,
Right.
you don't need too much. You just need a little guidance. So that's how I got started.
So how did was that transition from journalism to coaching, was that seamless, or did you have a aha kind of moment?
Well, no, you move along, and so the journalism to public relations so you kind of move along. Then teaching came along, then coaching,
Right.
and I didn't think I would be a teacher, but after I started, I absolutely love it, and so all of it blends together because it still allows me to use all my gifts and talents.
Right, absolutely.
And that's what I've asked for, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity.
And when you made that transition, was there a student that came to you, or did you have that moment within yourself in seeing the space in the market for that? And then
To teach?
To teach, you're saying you're doing these interviews with people and you can see they need some help. They can't really think of the words that maybe they're thinking they want to communicate, or was that something you went after, or did they come to you?
I started noticing it, and then I would go and suggest to people, if you're okay with it, I don't want to feel like I'm intruding on your space.
Right.
But if you're okay with a few pointers, I wouldn't mind giving you a few. And people would say, "Oh, okay." Some people don't want
some
any
people
help.
Can
They
get
feel
very insecure.
they feel that's why I have to be careful about how I say it. And most times now, I don't say much. People know I do it, and then they'll either approach me. So we'll leave it like that.
And how does, they approach you? How does someone know that they need assistance? Or how do you know? What are some identifiers?
I've had people come on someone else's behalf. I had a guy come to me, and a client he said, my client needs some help. I know you do this coaching. Can I talk to this person first and then come back to you? And I'm open to that. And that's how a couple clients come along. But someone else has to point it out, I think.
Right.
Sometimes people come directly and say, I know you do coaching. I know you do public speaking, presentation training, and I need that because I have this kind of job and I want to make sure I'm good when I have to do a presentation in front of the clients. Can we work on it together? And I'm really okay with that.
Are you mostly coaching and teaching adults, or do you also have...
I do both.
You do both.
Right now, I'm coaching adults and teaching college students.
Right. And are you seeing a difference in maybe the college students of today and when you started?
There's always a difference.
There's always a difference.
There's always a difference.
And with the changing landscape of how we communicate in general.
Right,
I'm curious to...
I'm always excited when I get a new class because to me, the group of them make the personality of the class.
Right.
You have some that are really eager to learn, some who think, oh, I've been on the debate team in high school, I don't really need much of this, but I had to take it because it's part of my major. And then they come in, and then they tell me later, I had no idea I had so much to learn. And those are the students I really like. Those are the ones I really like who can see that they do need something and they are growing.
And what are some of those gems that you drop on your students as far as some of the things they may not know? Oh, I needed this.
One of the things I tell people all the time is believe in who you are first.
Right.
Because you have a story to tell and you have experiences to share. And I always say, people have told some of the students, when you start to speak, tell a joke and that'll help calm the audience down. I said, if you can't tell a joke, don't start trying to tell a joke.
Right. You're not a comedian.
You're not a comedian. Don't add a joke. But life experiences sometimes are more interesting and funnier than any joke you can come up with.
Absolutely.
So I try to encourage them, use what you have. Use the knowledge you have, the experiences that you've gone through, your travels, foods you like to eat. You can speak about any of those things if it's a passion for you.
Right.
And then you see building confidence at that point will let you go into an area you may not have thought you could. So comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right.
That's wonderful. What are some of the things, I know we spoke a bit about this off air, but what are some of the things that are no-nos for public speaking or for speaking or communicating?
Well, just making sure you connect with the audience. That's what you need to do. And work on your pauses and your pacing. If you talk too fast, like you're trying to rush back to your seat, your audience is not going to connect with you.
Right.
So you need to make sure you look like you're just as interested in it and as you want them to be. So those are things you need to try to do.
And then one thing you mentioned I like was distractions, not distracting yourself.
Right.
Can you speak to that a bit more?
I always tell people, look at what you do, and I have my students, I record them so they can watch themselves on camera, and many of them don't want to see themselves on camera. They don't like the way they sound. I don't like my voice. I say, you have to get past that because I want you to notice what's going on, because if I'm pointing out something you need to correct and you don't see it yourself, you're not conscious enough of it to make the change.
Right.
I had a young lady one year, and she constantly was holding like a handful of her hair when she spoke, and we had it on tape, and she wouldn't look at the tape. So when I gave her notes and said, this is what I need you to do, I don't touch my hair. And I said, did you look at the tape? She said, no, I didn't look at it yet. I said, go home, look at the tape, and when you come back, I would like to talk to you. She came back and apologized. She said she had no idea she was doing that. So it's what you point out to someone and get them to at least be aware of. That's when we can start to change and grow from there.
Are you finding that your students or your clients are becoming more aware of how they're presenting themselves?
Yes.
I know that's a very important thing.
Yes.
Can you speak to that a bit more?
Yes, they are becoming more aware, and they bring it up. They say, oh, I noticed that when I was talking to this person, I was more comfortable this time. I wasn't looking past them, because I didn't want to make eye contact, or I wasn't fidgeting or shifting my weight on each foot. I was standing still. So anything you point out, they start to do it. So I think that's really good.
And how important is being aware of how you're presenting yourself when you're communicating with others?
I think it's at the top. It's at the top of the list. And you need to practice no matter what you're going to do. At least think through whatever the event is. If you're going to do a introduction of someone at an event, if you're a member of a club or organization, they're going to ask someone to do it. It may be you today because someone else didn't show up. So at least be prepared. And I tell people, you're communicating every day.
Right.
Even if you're just having a conversation with friends.
Absolutely.
And somewhere in there, you have to use persuasive, speaking, techniques. If we're all sitting together and we said, oh, let's get something to eat. One person wants pizza, one person wants Mexican, one person wants something else. Okay, who's going to win the argument of what we get? So we're not ordering 5 different things. So you use all your skills.
All of them, all the time.
Yes.
What are some of the skills that are required to be a good public speaker? If someone were to be watching this now and say, okay, I may not be in her class right now, but maybe can I take these competencies and start working on them?
Okay, first, confidence.
Confidence.
Okay, even if you don't think you are, and I always say to my clients and my students, do not announce that you're nervous. No one knows you're nervous.
No one knows that.
No one knows, because if you start speaking and you forget 2 or 3 words that you had planned to say, we have no idea what you plan to say anyway. So don't draw attention to it. Just go ahead, go with it, and don't point that out, because you don't want to attract unnecessary attention to yourself. I don't believe in doing that. I want you to be confident, and if you can't be confident, pretend you are until you get through it. You only talking for a few minutes, and just go with it. Just go with it. Make sure you have eye contact. You don't need to stare at people. Now don't pick one person in the room just to stare at, but just kind of glance around at everybody, and you'll start to feel the difference. And if you practiced and gone over your material before you go, you should feel more comfortable. I'm telling you, practice helps diminish nerves and fear by 50 to 70%.
Really?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
That's interesting.
Yes. And so that's one thing you want to do. So if you practice it and you become more comfortable every time you rehearse and practice, you knock down the fear and the nerves.
Fear and nerves. That does lead me to my next line of questioning here, which is for your book.
Okay.
Fear and nerves. Were you? This is your second book.
My second book.
So how did you? I know you mentioned communication has always been a part of your life.
Always been a part of my life.
Writing, speaking.
Right.
When did you decide to become an author? Because that's quite a decision.
It's quite a decision. Actually, to be truthful, it happened much later than I had hoped.
Really?
Because I had planned to do this years ago, but as people say, you have other things to do. You got to live. You got things that are happening, careers, family, all of that. So I finally had an opportunity to get to a point where I was in a place to actually start to publish my work. And yes, because I was feeling mighty free. That title is interesting. I had to tell you about that.
Oh, yeah.
So, so that's how we came to this. And I'm working on my third book, and just got to get to a point where I have some time with teaching and working with clients.
Right.
It takes up a lot of time,
Sure.
but I
I
don't mind because I love what I'm doing.
Right.
I love what I'm doing, and I asked for this.
Right.
I'm where I want to be right now in my life in terms of doing the things that give me joy,
Make you happy,
and use all my gifts and talents. And so when I can do it and I see growth in someone else, it's amazing to me. May I tell you a story about one of my
Please.
students? I have a student who was in my class at American University several years ago, and she came in, and I saw the fear in her eyes sitting there first night when I was explaining which speeches we would do during the semester, how much we would do, and I just saw her just like her eyes just glaze over. And she came up to me afterwards and said, you seem like a nice enough person, but I just want you to know I'm dropping your class. And I said, no, you're not dropping my class. And she said, no. She looked at me like I was confused.
I'm telling you this.
I'm telling you. And I
said, recommending.
No, I know. I'm dropping. I said, no, you're not dropping my class. And she said, I said, I will find you. I know how to find students on campus. You are not dropping my class. I said, so I expect to see you here next week. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to get through this together. And she walked out. She bagged out the door. Like she wasn't sure what to think. What's wrong with her? I don't know. Anyway, she came back next week. And I said, oh, I got through to her. And I said, we'll work on it together. And I helped her become more relaxed, more comfortable, just kind of building her confidence.
Encouraging. It was a lack of confidence.
She was afraid to stand and speak in front of people. And I said, no, well, you can do this because this is your audience here, and I run a judge-free zone in my classroom and with my clients. I don't try to put you on the spot or make you feel uncomfortable. I'm here to only enhance you and help you. And so she stayed, and all throughout the semester, she was doing wonderful. She started raising her hand to go up and speak, and I thought, whoa, this is great. A year and a half ago, I get an email from this young lady. Hadn't heard from her. She's put her picture in there because she thought I didn't remember her.
Right.
I did. And she said, I just want you to know where I am. I'm getting ready to graduate from law school at Catholic University.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be a lawyer, but had decided if I wasn't going to talk, I would have to find another career. But you convinced me to stay in your class. I just want to thank you for helping me do what I wanted to do. And she just passed the bar in this new bar exam in several states.
That gives me chills.
Yeah. So she took the bar that lets her, she's barred now in several states. And she is so excited that she's in the career that she really wanted. I didn't know that at the time until she sent the email. So, I mean, I kind of teared up and I thought, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Yeah, so we've stayed in touch since she reconnected with me, and just a wonderful young woman.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have more students that you have affected in that way, but
I
maybe
hope
don't.
so. I hope so. Some of them reach out and let me know what they're doing, in jobs, and they said, "Oh, you said we'd be talking all the time, and you're right. I'm talking every day, and my job requires it. So I never know what to expect when I go to work. But this is what's happening."
That's wonderful.
Yes,
that's wonderful. But I do want to talk about your book here too.
Okay.
I got to flip through it a bit while we were sitting here.
Did you see anything in there you liked?
I did.
Anything stand out for you?
I can actually tell you.
Okay.
because I read through and I opened right to it, Destined.
Oh, Destined. Okay.
That one stood out to me.
Okay.
But again, I opened right to it.
Okay.
And it kind of took me.
There's a couple that happen when I'm out at readings that seem to really connect with the audience, and it's really interesting to me. One is called Embrace Your Bold.
Okay, sure. I do want to note this that because I was feeling mighty free is a collection of poetic rhythms and rhymes.
Yes.
So we were talking about poems here when I referenced the Destined. Please continue.
Okay, so this one poem called "Embrace Your Bold," I noticed it connects with the audience quite a bit when I'm doing it. Would you like to hear it?
Please.
Okay. Step into your moment. Forget what you've been told. Sidestep all hesitation. Go ahead, embrace your bold. There's energy in boldness. It moves your spirit and your feet. Movement is required, and you won't find it in your seat. A spark of courage ignites the magic, and motion takes the lead. You'll feel your faith increasing, and you're resolute indeed. And when you find what really moves you, way deep within your soul, you will make a conscious shift, and you will embrace your bold.
What does boldness mean to you?
Not hesitating. You know, just believing that you deserve to be wherever it is you see yourself.
Right.
And not waiting for someone to give you permission to do it. Not going to ask or thinking, oh, maybe, and not comparing yourself to anybody else. Don't do that.
Right.
You have just as much right to be wherever you want to be in life. And so you should just think that you believe that you belong there.
Absolutely.
And go for it. And being bold is that extra little nerve that you get to just, that you nudge yourself and you step in there and say, I'm doing this. I'm doing this.
Is that theory or that feeling where the title came from?
Yes. Because this title, "Because I Was Feeling Mighty Free," is one of the poems in the book, and it's that poem. I'll read it for you if we have time.
Please.
And it is about me as a child just pushing the limit, even when I got in trouble. And so
I'm famous for that.
You are too?
I'm famous
Okay.
for that,
Well,
yes.
you and I are kindred spirits. Then we're kindred spirits. So there was one incident where I went to school. I think this was 5th grade. My mother had got this dress that she loved for me. I didn't like it. So I go to school. One of my friends said she liked the dress. I said, "Oh, do you want it?" And she said, "What?" And I said, "You can have it." We go in the bathroom. We exchange clothes. I go home. I'm feeling so free that I made a decision for myself. I did something. Yeah, I was comfortable. I liked this. I didn't like that. My mother saw it. She wasn't having that. You know, so it didn't go so well for me that afternoon.
Right.
and she folded up the clothes and put them in the bag. And I had to walk to her house to get that dress back. Get the dress back.
My dress back.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one of my different things. And then that piece also talks about me going skydiving when I wanted to just experience something else.
Yeah, that's one of my goals for this year.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. When you finish the show, I'll tell you where I went.
Okay.
So I like adventure. I like trying something new. I have to try to scale back sometimes because I can get too close to the edge on some occasions with my thoughts.
Fun.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah. What inspired you to write the book? I understand your grandmother had quite an influence on you.
Oh yes, my grandmother, my grandma Ruth. She had a influence on me in my life, and so the book is dedicated to her. And she was the kindest person and always encouraging you to go and try anything you wanted to try. So I think that's where
that spirit,
boldness, in me comes from her.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Why poems?
Because they're easy to express. You can kind of say a lot with a little sometimes, and sometimes it's subtle truth. If people are listening, they hear more than what they thought they would get out of it, and so the poems work best for me.
And how did you decide to bring this collection together? Did you have the title or
No.
idea first, or
I knew I wanted to put the collection together, so I started picking some pieces I had already written, and then there were others that I was writing just for this book. Sure. And when I wrote "Because I Was Feeling Mighty Free" for this book, I decided I'd take that one as the title.
Wonderful.
And make that the title piece for it.
Why don't you share the poem with us?
Okay, let's do that. And this, almost the last one, it was the last one in the book as well. because I was feeling mighty free. The impulse to touch held me captive. Admonition was calling to me, and I welcomed the audacious aroma because I was feeling mighty free. Moved quickly without yield or permission, and no care of what could or may be. Unpinned myself from life's clothesline because I was feeling mighty free. The door of the plane opened slowly, and I felt the kiss of the sky. Clouds were too dense to hold me. Some people are still asking, why? In the heat of a right now moment, before fear could pin me down, discovered that a dive in deep water doesn't mean you are subject to drown. Unpacking a closed-up intention makes you wonder if it's really me. Was no longer concerned with your knowing, because I was feeling mighty free. In an untapped, caution-free instant, unhindered, unstructured, and bold, stepped out of life's neat procession, uninclined to do as I'm told. That look on your face is priceless. Don't you recognize me from this side? The place where you may deem as my silence is not where I wish to reside. This move may seem unfamiliar, unexpected even for me, but I will leap without a net because I like feeling mighty free. Life is an unmapped excursion with more choices than we can see. Gonna take a new road marked adventure because I like feeling mighty free. In a conscious state, I speak my mind, and there's no need for you to agree. Let it be known I have emerged because I was feeling mighty free. Yes.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was the feeling when you put that period at the end of that? Because those last three lines are really sum it all up, right?
Okay.
For me, at least, I'm conscious.
Unstructured and bold and all of that. And I like the piece in there that says unpin myself from life's clothesline. Sometimes you can feel like you're kind of hung up in a certain and you kind of you're stuck in a place. But when you just take it off of you, and then you can step beyond that. And I want people to know that they can. You don't have to wait for something else to happen. Why and we all have a dream.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they're packed away in a box or in someone's pocket. Just go look for your dreams and pull them out.
A lot of times, I find that they are evident.
Yeah.
Very similar to you and your communication skills from a child.
Right.
They're right in front of you.
Right.
But a lot of times, whether it's the world or society or your own twisted perceptions of things,
it's trying to put you in a certain category.
And limiting what your true potential is.
I don't know how many people have told me about people who have gone into finance, business, whatever, and then decided, I want to do something different.
Right.
And people have walked away from those really structured positions and then turned into a chef, or they're out painting,
right.
or whatever they're doing. And so people change. We have a lot within us. We're not one dimensional.
No, not at all.
We're not one dimensional.
There's a universe inside
yes, we're not one dimensional. And don't let yourself feel like you can't explore the other parts of you.
Right.
And I want people to know that. Just feel free to do it.
Feel free. And what's the third book going to be? Is this going to be similar?
It's going to be a book of poetry.
Book of poetry.
And most of it's written. I just need to start editing. And I'm also recording some of those pieces.
So that's
from the new piece and from the new book and this one.
So you're doing audio for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, doing a whole
Wonderful. You're going to
CD.
do audio book, CD?
Yes, a whole CD. Whole CD.
That must be exciting too.
It is exciting. Yeah, it is exciting. I'm working with a studio in Atlanta, and there's different things behind each poem, even because I was feeling mighty free is on there, and Embrace Your Bold that I did for you as well. And each one, depending on the producer, he's scoring it, what he's hearing. So he's playing. I apologize. I said, I'm sorry, you have to keep, I apologize. You keep playing these over and over again. Listen, he said, no.
That's what
he said, this is wonderful. He said, I hear something new every time I play it. And it leads me to know, oh, this may need a little bit of jazz, or this may just need some sound effects, or this may just need, something else.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's one that I'd love to share with you before we leave.
Please.
And it's called In Your Business.
Okay.
That's going to be on the CD.
Okay.
And I really enjoy it. I'm always looking out the window and trying hard to see whatever's going on out there. is just so interesting to me. I'm trying to get my angle right. The view is almost clear, but now they closed the window and they've made it hard to hear. If I could just get closer, no telling what I'll find. I can see a little something, but now they closed the blind. You think that I'm embarrassed? Oh no, honey. Intrigue has such appeal. There's nothing more exciting, and your business is ideal. I've come up with an angle. How brilliant is my mind? I'll get myself some wire, and I'll tap into their line. Well, it started as a whisper, and then the talk was clear. My name was mentioned several times. I couldn't believe my ear. The nerve of certain people. They don't know my family tree. They need to tend to their own business and leave the talking it to me.
Wow. Does your imagery and medical, do those come to you, or
Yes.
do you sit down and?
Yes. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. I always keep a pad and a pen next to me, on my night table, because my mind is constantly moving, and I may just get 2 or 3 words cue sometimes, and sometimes it's just enough. It's just enough to turn into a whole poem, a whole poem.
Book.
And as soon as I see the 3 words, I know where it's going. I just haven't had time to finish writing because I got to get up and go do something else. But it's there waiting on me when I come back home. Okay, when you get back, Gillie, we right here. So we'll just pick the pen up and we ready. So that's the way it flows for me a lot. But I do a lot of writing early in the morning.
Early in the morning, that's your
creative. That's my
time.
spot. That's my spot. But it doesn't matter what time of day, really. A
Inspiration
thought or
comes
something,
when
it comes when it comes, especially in the car.
Absolutely.
Then when you can't pull over drive.
I have my deepest thoughts in the car. And I'm just
in
sitting
the car. So
absolutely,
it happens. It
Wonderful.
happens.
Great. Well, where can they pick up the book?
The book is available. I would love to tell people they can go to my website and get it. So GillieHaynes.com. You can buy it from me if you want a signed copy.
Okay.
I can send you a signed copy. If you would like to just get it, you can go to Amazon.com, or you can also go to BarnesandNoble.com. But you can get it on Amazon. So a lot of people do that.
So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and your website. You want to say that one more time?
GillieHaynes.com.
GillieHaynes.com. And where can they get your services for public speaking or coaching?
If you go to the website, there's a space on there that will allow you to send me a contact, to contact me. And you can send me an email or something like that, but that would be fine.
Wonderful.
Or you can, Gillie Haynes, GillieHaynes, @gmail.com. You can write me directly, and I will be happy to talk to you about enhancing your public speaking, feeling more confident with what you do, and just being out there and being your best self.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining the show.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to speak with you. I learned so much in a little bit of time. So I want to thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with our second guest, the scholarship lady. We'll be right back. Join us on Book It Now, streaming live on the WBGR Network's entertainment channel on Facebook, each Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. If you miss it, you can catch it on the Book It Now Facebook page. You'll see our interviews with veteran actor Clifton Powell, Grammy-nominated musician Raheem DeVaughn, CBS sportscaster James Brown, international speaker Willie Jolly, and U.S. Ambassador Susan Johnson Cook, just to name a few. Our guests open up and give us their authentic selves, and we love them for it. Don't miss the next episode of Book It Now. Now, we're going to talk about schools and scholarships. The National Center for Education Statistics reports that there are 750,000 scholarships available for qualified students. That totals to a sum of about 1.2 billion with a B. Now, how do you get your hands on these funds for either yourself or for your children? Enter the scholarship lady, USA, Miss Carla Dickerson. She's been helping students and parents across the country get their hands on these funds by applying and finding the ones that they are qualified for, pursuing them, obtaining the funds again, and starting their college careers. She helped me, and hopefully she'll help you all today. So thank you for coming on the show.
Quentin, you already know what's going on with the scholarship lady right now.
Why don't you share a bit for those who may be unfamiliar?
One thing I want to say is it is truly by the grace of God that, I've 18 years I've been doing this. And when I see somebody like you, when I knew that I was coming to this show today, my heart was pumping because I said, he was a 16-year-old person
At one point, I was.
when I saw you first, and you needed SAT and ACT scores, and you. So to see that you've graduated college and that you're
On time.
Yes, on time, and that you're just in a successful push for your life. It makes me realize why my job is so important and why it's so needed in the community and basically globally at this point, because people need post-secondary education and training
Absolutely.
all over the world. I mean, and people are always looking for money to try to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So I'm just sitting here with my heart beating fast like it's Quentin and he's a grown man.
I got a little hair on my face now.
You have a lot of hair.
I do have a lot of hair on my face. But I do want to talk about you
Sure.
here. So what is the Scholarship Lady? What is it that the Scholarship Lady does?
Okay, I probably need 16 hours to do that one. Okay, but I will say that I always like to just give homage to my mom, because I lost my mom several years ago, back in 1998, and I really was a media professional before the Scholarship Lady. And to fast forward, I had come home to help my dad through the grief that I was grieving, but
Certainly.
after 40-something years of marriage, I just knew that my dad was extremely just struggling with just trying to deal with that loss, like we all were. So I came home, and in those 5 or 6 months being home, I decided I would volunteer at a school. So
What school?
that was Surrattsville High School in Clinton, Maryland. And I volunteered and just started just kind of coming into the school, and somebody said, hey, they kind of need somebody here to do college and career services for the students. They need a counselor that probably might focus on something like that. Would you be interested? Blah, blah, blah. One thing led to another. And I was just sitting with myself like, wait a minute. And I had my 2 sons back in Florida. I had left them, took a leave of absence from the newspaper that I was working at in Miami, and came back to help my dad. So all I can say is I didn't know I'd be the Scholarship Lady.
Right.
I'm supposed to be Carla Dickerson, journalist, making community service videos for the world or something, So it just happened to be, I took the job. I said, you know what, I'll just travel back and forth to see my kids. I was going through a divorce at the time, so I left my sons with their dad, and I commuted back and forth, literally from Maryland
To Florida.
Yes, I did that because my oldest son was 9 at the time. I did that for 9 years.
Wow.
Literally almost every other month.
Wow.
Okay, and was this counselor. But then about 4 or 5 years in, there was a superintendent of schools who ended up getting indicted, and I had been doing a lot of services for the students at the high school, and long story short, they were like, oh, they've got a budget cut here, and my principal called me and said, Ms. Dickerson, I know you've raised $3 million for our high school, but you're going to end up going to another school, and I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know what's going to happen. And I was just sitting there thinking, what? But I just helped kids get $3 million. Wait a minute.
At this point, you're in it now.
Yes.
It's not, I'm here to help my dad. This is what I do.
Right. I'm like, no, this is what I feel is connected.
Right.
I kind of feel like, wow, because my mother was a nurse, and I thought, she was a human service, worker. She gave herself to help families deal with, their ill loved ones and things. And she used to always tell me, you need to count. And I'm thinking, wait, I'm doing something that she's smiling for, and now my heart's connected to it now, and now you're going to stop me? But I guess I couldn't get stopped because the angel was definitely hovering over, and I just felt like it was my mission at that point. So I just, with abandon, I just started saying, well, you know what? I don't know where they're going to send me, but it's not going to stop me from doing scholarships, because whether I'm paid for or not, and somebody had told me, if you're doing something, whether you get paid or not, and you love it, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Well, they ended up sending me to Cooper Lane Elementary to be doing reading specialties for 5th graders.
Yeah, so they don't need scholarships.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I did that for about 18 months, and then I said no. I had this drive that was saying, no, you have something to do. And you know what? I realized, no, I've got to get back to high school. So I just started helping students
families that I had known before, once their next kids start coming, they knew me back from Saratsville, they would call me, hey, Ms. Dickerson, can you help my cousin? So I literally was never getting paid for almost 2 years, really. And I was just helping people all over, you know, the DMV. And so I finally decided, you know what? I need to probably make this be something that I really concentrate on.
Right.
So lo and behold, I ended up doing some tutoring. I started tutoring because I knew that I had the journalism skills and I could write.
Right.
And people have to write an essay
For sure.
to get scholarships.
Yeah.
So I'll just sort of use that skill and apply that. And so that's just what I did. And so I started just hosting workshops for writing, helping students learn how to write to get a scholarship and things like that. And then I started realizing that SAT and ACT scores were super low with a lot of students. Like they would come to me and I'd try to help them, but then I'd look at their GPA and it was good. And then we'd try to start writing essays and things. But then when their scores would come back, the scores were so low, sometimes I was going, oh my gosh, this is a 4.0 student, but they're not even able to get a scholarship.
Right.
So I realize now, you know, and really thinking back, that it was a culmination of just putting everything together. It wasn't one thing that was going to make the scholarship lady be the scholarship lady. I needed to host writing workshops. I needed to host SAT and ACT classes. So I contracted with some teachers in the area that had specialties in math. One of the math directors that I work with, he is a NASA engineer, works at NASA, so I knew he knew math. We weren't worried about that.
Right.
So he joined me, and I just started getting people coming saying they want to help tutor. And so I sort of created this Scholarship Lady brand. And this is now my 10th year.
Congratulations.
10 years that I've been out here plugging away.
That's tenure.
Yeah,
Right there.
and and because I started in DC, I started out as Scholarship Lady DC. That's why most people were, you know, when they'd ask me, they said, "What's the DC for?" Because you're Carla Dickerson's my name, but that's DC. That's backwards, so it's not that.
That could get confusing.
They were going DC CD. People were messing up the name. And then finally, now after going into this 10th year now, I ended up getting calls in different cities to go and help do workshops in different cities. I started working in Atlantic City. I started working in Miami. I started doing work in Atlanta. I was just getting calls to go and do these 3-day workshops and boot camps. So I finally said, you know what?
USA.
I'm the Scholarship Lady US now. So just at the end of the year, I said, you know what? 2019, I'm going to officially sort of segue my brand straight into that. And so here I am. But what I've come to realize is that college is out of hand right now with what it cost. To go to a Maryland school, I'm talking about a Maryland state school.
As a Maryland resident.
As a Maryland resident is $20,000. That's for room, board, and tuition.
Yeah, that's on the cheap end, too.
That's just a state school. And then don't put me in Johns Hopkins. Or don't put me in Loyola.
Right.
You know, now I'm talking $55K, $60K a year. This is mortgage payments. How do people pay for these things? And I thought, you know what? My brand's really going to matter more than it ever had, because in these last 10 years, I've seen the cost of college escalate so high that now, if you don't get scholarships, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're not, or taking out a loan, or...
And the loans are fine if they're small. I mean, you take out a small loan because, again, you know, you might have to fill in some gaps, of course, $5,000 or $6,000 loan a year, but it shouldn't really be more than your car note would be. That my thing was, let's look at this 4 or 5 year thing. If you're paying like what a car note would pay, because if you graduate college, you're gonna have to buy a car and pay $200, $300, $400 a year. I mean, a month. So if you can do that successfully, then that's about probably the max on your loans. If it starts getting in over that, you're talking about your apartment note is what you have to pay back. So I felt like, no, this is the time for scholarships to be pushed more than ever. So my goal for 2019, now that I'm Scholarship Lady US and I'm working in 6 or 7 cities, is to be available for people who want to find scholarship money. You said the number at the beginning. There are billions of scholarships that go unused every year. Why? Because people just won't put the essay in.
Right. So what's your approach then when you're helping a student try to find a scholarship that they would be qualified for and would have an actual shot at obtaining?
Couple of things. I'm always looking. The easiest scholarship to get is a scholarship at a college or university that you're going to attend. Why? Because that's a larger amount quickly. Meaning Perfect example. You want to go to High Point University. You want to go to a college. It costs $40,000. If your test scores are high and your GPA is decent, somebody may give you tuition right off the break. That means I don't even have to write any essays.
Right.
For all the people who don't want to write essays, what I've told them, get your SAT and ACT scores up to par, get your grades up to par, and submit that to the college. Let the college pay first to bring you there,
Right.
and then you fill in the gap with the smaller scholarships. You want to do the Burger King scholarship for $1,000. You want to do McDonald's for $1,000. Maybe you're going to do those little scholarships. They add up, but when somebody needs $20,000-$30,000, they need a big amount of money
Right.
very quickly.
Right.
Very difficult to get $20,000 in 3 months when my parents owe a bill in August. But if I could get my test scores, the University of Maryland or, North Carolina A&T or Howard told me that their scholarship for tuition is if I can get this score on my SAT or ACT and submit this GPA, they're going to give me tuition. Or they're going to give me 3/4 of the money.
Right, needed.
That's the fast track.
Are those internal scholarships pretty universal for
Yes.
schools?
Oh, pretty much. I mean, truly, I can't think of a college that I've ever even come in contact with, and I'm at college fairs all year. I mean, I'm talking to directors of admission all the time. There's not a school that's not going to have some scholarship money because they have endowments.
Right.
Harvard University has some, like $5 billion endowment. People are paying for people to be these fields.
Right.
Plus, you even have corporations now giving money. Microsoft, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, what an amazing scholarship. They pay your tuition all the way through 5 years, which means you could get your master's done for free. And they let you pick any school that you want to go to. It's your pick.
Right.
It doesn't get any
better for your education.
And it kind of felt like once I really started getting into this scholarship thing, instead of treating it like just scholarships, I was like getting excited, almost like, wow, like it's my money. I started connecting to this Bill and Melinda Gates $5 million. Like, I'm going to get somebody to get this money.
Right.
And I felt like I was like winning the money with them. And I was
going
getting
through that process with
I
them.
felt so much a part of the process. And I'm realizing, like, I tell students, hey, if your parents tell you have to go to school, you don't really want to go there, well, then do the scholarships and get your money. Then you can go where you want to go.
Well, like I mentioned at the top here, 750,000 scholarships available, reported by the National Center for Education Statistics. 750,000, totaling $1.2 billion.
Yes. It's just nothing that you can't even take in that amount of money and think, is that really available? Because people go, oh, you can't really win scholarships. I just want to say I want to give a shout out. A young lady named Navesha, I worked with her. She graduated from NYU a couple years ago. She won almost $1,100,000 in scholarship money. And she went to Central High School right in Prince George's County. That girl won everything she touched.
Wow.
Literally.
Yeah.
She had a Midas touch on the scholarships. She also really was tenacious. Like,
Right.
I'm going to put in 100 scholarships. I mean, she wasn't messing around
Right.
because the joke was, I think it was a thing where if I don't get this money, I'm going to have to stay in the state, and then my parents could probably visit me all the time. And I want to get to Manhattan.
Right.
So she said, no, I'm going to Manhattan, and I'm going to get my money. And she literally did not pay to go to a school that's $60,000.
Right.
That was, when I saw that, I really knew at this point, this is nothing to play around with. This
Right.
young lady can write her ticket anywhere that she wants to go. And it's all because, number one, she had drive, she had purpose, she knew, wait a minute, I'm not going to put my parents in debt like that. I'm not going to make them sign these big loans for me.
Right.
And she had a dream. I mean, she really knew there's something that I really want to do, and I'm not going to sit here and pay $1,000 a month back for the next 10 years when I graduate.
Now, is her tenacity and awareness, would you say that is unique to her? Or, I'm just thinking about myself when I was 16.
I remember that.
How little I wanted to sit here and do these math problems and then write this essay and then spend an hour on the internet just looking for scholarships. I didn't feel like doing that, right? And so my question is that still the case for the youth now? Obviously, I have a wonderful mother and a wonderful father who made me sit down and do those
Your
things.
parents, I mean, what a beautiful, situation. You had people that believed in you and they were willing to push you to help you understand the importance of doing that extra work.
Exactly. And for maybe students who don't have that kind of support system.
That's right, not everybody has
or
that.
for students who may have that support system and fail to recognize the importance of this. What is that demographic like, or how easy is it to work with kids today?
It's not easy. It's a very, very difficult process because, again, a lot of students today, because they have their internet,
There's a lot more distractions.
they have their phone, there's so many things to stop them from sitting at a computer doing something constructive. A lot of times they might just be wasting time, just looking at their Facebook on the computer.
Right.
When I'm like, no, you could be searching for maybe 20 scholarships to do this month. So it's easier said than done. And I'm trying to let these students know that, we have community colleges, thank goodness, and that there's always a way for you to get some post-secondary education, and you can work a summer job and pay your way through community college.
Do you think students overlook community colleges?
I think they overlook it because their eyes are on that big prize that I need to go away and I want to live the dorm life. You see we have all these reality shows and all these things. Everybody wants to get to the ATL. They want to zip off to, Miami and go to UM and hang out. And I'm like, well, you could do that if you commit to the work. So I try to get my students to understand that it's a process that you can't do anything without putting forth effort.
Yes.
You can't.
Do anything.
And no one's. And you know what? The last thing I do want to say, and I want to make sure I said this because I really thought about Navisha when she won that money. I said, what made her so unique to win that $1 million? She had opened a business to feed the homeless when she was, I think, 12 years old or something.
Okay, so she's a unicorn.
She had reached out and been doing community outreach for a long time, and her essays were talking about, how she was a young girl and already in a business model as a young girl. So to me, I try to tell students, you need to find where you're unique at. So the three things that I'd like to say that would be important. Number one, make sure that you don't have great GPAs and low test scores, because I find that's one big, huge thing that's happening. I have a 3.8 GPA, so everybody's just going to call me and give me scholarship money from the colleges.
Right.
No, you have to be a balanced student. Your scores have to balance those grades. And I find so many parents worrying about GPAs and they're doing nothing with these students' test scores. And so it is what it is.
Right, and that's something my parents started, as you know, when I was younger. I probably started studying for the SAT when I was 15.
But you had some big scores.
I did.
Let's brag on you for a minute.
I did.
You had test scores.
I did.
Okay, you had the goods. Okay, so I can look
I had
at
been
you.
studying for 3 years at that point.
And so you committed even though you didn't realize you had committed. So when I look at you, it's very easy to say what it takes to get through the process, because I can just look at you and say, nope, he had great test scores. He was able to realize what he needed to do to get himself to the next level. So students need to work on test scores. Number two, you need to work on your writing skills. You have to write an essay. Somebody is going to read that. So you need to take it serious, that I don't just throw anything together and throw that in. You need to have a couple people review it for you, some family members, your teachers at school. Make sure you're submitting something that could be looked at with somebody looking at it, feeling strong about it.
How do you get a student who may not express themselves so well on paper or may not be a good writer? How do you get them motivated to write these essays? Because they can be lengthy at times.
Yes, they can be very lengthy. What I usually do is I give them usually a 5-question kind of...
Okay, like a template.
Yeah, just sort of a template. Just asking them some things about themselves so that they can think about, like, who am I really? Because it's very hard to write about yourself.
Right.
And a lot of scholarships want these goal statements. What is your personal goal after college? And you're sitting there going,
Like, I'm 17, I have no idea.
a 17-year-old, they're going to be able to line this out?
Yeah.
Probably not
Like,
really.
lie this out.
That's so good. Lie it out would probably be the process. So getting them to just open up a little bit and ask some questions and do, and because I had a counseling background for 5 years at Surrattsville, I feel that that counseling experience makes me be a little more unique than just somebody who may help them write an essay or a college readiness expert, college consultant. I also have those counseling skills where I'm able to sort of take in some things about their personality to help them feel more confident and open them up to who they really are and their strengths that will help them do that. So I think it's just a culmination, again, as I said earlier, of just a little piece of everything that I've ever done sort of turned into the scholarship. And the scholarship lady, but the joke is I had a student at Surrattsville who never could say my name, and I would always be on the loudspeaker saying, come down, I've got scholarships for you, come see me down in the Career Center. And this kid would always pop his head and go, you always trying to make people get a scholarship. You're the scholarship lady. I said, okay, I'm the scholarship lady. And so when I really needed to decide what I was going to be, you know, or what I was going to use as my brand,
Here comes this kid.
I thought, well, that way I don't have to tell people what I do. I am the scholarship lady.
Right.
That's who I really am because that kid told me who I was. That's the joke of it all. I didn't give myself this name. So, because people go, did you name yourself? No, I didn't. Yeah, so the last thing I was going to say is the final thing that you really want to do is you want to look at your resume. You want to look at what you've done.
But I'm 16. I've had one job.
Right, you've had one job. But you need to look at the things that you do like to do. What is it that you like to do?
Right.
You may not have done a lot of things, but what do you enjoy doing? Usually, there's some kind of scholarship that's in that area.
That realm.
You wouldn't even realize.
Right.
Like I tell all my students that, oh no, I don't know. And then I look, I said, oh my gosh, they've got sneakers on. Have you checked the stores for the sneakers? They're like, what? I said,
Nike
go to
scholarships.
Foot. I said, why don't you go? So I started telling parents, all the places you spend money, I don't care if it's McDonald's, I don't care wherever you go throughout your day, start looking at the billboards that you spend your money and go on websites, Google those names. There'll be a scholarship there.
And that's part of that approach too.
That's just a good way of getting money back for the money you've spent.
What's the most surprising place that you found offer scholarship opportunities?
The most surprising.
Like, wow, really?
You know what I really didn't realize? I didn't realize that, I knew that sports scholarships were big because everybody had the NCAA and things like that. But I didn't really realize that the actual gear that they wear, all the things that they use to get to be that is like a real scholarship situation because I was always working with students to get an NCAA scholarship off their sports skills. I would have never thought about the sports merchandisers.
Yeah,
sports merchandiser scholarships.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
I didn't even think about that. I mean, I knew nonprofits. I knew that the sororities and fraternities would be giving scholarships, and I knew the fast food restaurants because I'd always see McDonald's.
365 Black or whatever it is.
Yeah, you'd always see like restaurants saying that they give students scholarships and things like that because they get a lot of high school students that work for them.
Right.
So you kind of knew that. So the two things that I didn't really know would be the merchandising scholarships for sports, and I didn't realize that government agencies where people work would also give scholarship money. Like if your parent is in the government, they have scholarships for if you work at this particular government agency, you could go and you might find out that the government agency might sponsor your student to get money, which is still like another thing that you really wouldn't necessarily think of. Like, I'm going to my government job every day, but then could I really get money for my kid from the government that I work at every day?
I don't know about right now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
As long as it's not the shutdown.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a shutdown and it's running,
Right.
then you'll be able to use that. But it just basically answered your question that I thought it was a unique thing that the nation's capitals, government centers, but because they had so many internship possibilities, because they need college students to work for them,
Right.
that's how they started creating that model, because this
makes
student
sense.
might really turn into a worker for me.
For one day, right?
Because they need employees. And then now all these tech companies, since we have a shortage of computer scientists and engineers, you've got all the engineering firms and looking for people. So you can pretty much, whether it's Microsoft, I mean, whoever it is, Oracle, all these, they have major scholarship money that they're giving away.
Right.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, which is now you're on Twitter. Why don't
Every
you
day,
see what
might
the
as
Twitter
well,
scholarship
how much
might
they're
be?
giving, right.
Just saying, for all the people that are out there using these services. So my takeaway is, for all the services you use, you might find something really unique in there that I didn't even mention, just because it's something that you've been patronizing for a long time and you didn't really know it could turn into money for you.
For you, right. Are there similar opportunities for graduate students or graduate programs?
Most definitely. Graduate students have the same situation. Only thing is, they're not worried about an SAT or an ACT score at that point.
Or the GRE
It's
or the
just
GMAT
basically
or
that.
LSAT.
Right. Now, if you're going into professional medical fields, like you're going to med school, things like that, those are things that, your grades are really going to matter.
Sure.
You're trying to get some scholarship money for to be a doctor or something with such a high ticket. You really do want to have stellar grades. But the state of Maryland, you'd be surprised, a lot of people won't even look for scholarships in their own state because they're looking at a national scholarship.
Right.
But I try to...
Or intra-state schools.
Intrastate schools or something. I'm like, first of all, if you live in North Carolina, then you need to look at North Carolina as your first place and then work your way out. Go on the state of Maryland, go on the Maryland Higher Education Commission. If you just Google that, Maryland Higher Education Commission, all the scholarship.
One more time.
The Maryland Higher Education Commission in Annapolis, the State House.
Okay.
They provide all the scholarships for the state. So you'll go on there and it will have a scholarship icon that you can log into, make an account, and there's at least 15 to 20 scholarships that are available in your state just by going to the Maryland State House website.
What are some things people don't know about the scholarship process?
What they don't know, I think they don't know that you have to do a lot of scholarships to win scholarships. That would be the biggest thing I'd like people to know and understand. That it's been my experience in 18 years or so that I've been working in that arena. If I do 100 scholarships, I probably have a 10 to 15% yield off of that. I think that's a big thing for somebody to know because they're like, oh, I did 4 or 5 scholarships. I said, well, you might have done 4 or 5 and you may not win anything from 4 or 5.
Do you think that's intimidating?
I think it is intimidating, but I also want to say this. You shouldn't just do scholarships because someone said, hey, try this scholarship. You need to match the scholarship to who you are.
Right.
That is going to increase your chances of winning the scholarship.
Absolutely.
Because if you're just doing anything, oh, I'm just going to put it in, but your heart's not really connected, the essay they're probably going to have you write, you may not even be connected to that.
Right.
And you can tell when you're writing, are you writing about something, do you want to get a scholarship from the American Cancer Society because you had a family member who went through cancer? So now you can write that essay on that? That's the kind of stuff you need to be thinking about. You need to be targeting the scholarships
That you're passionate about.
to your passion. That's number one. That's going to make that 10% yield go way up. That's a big thing. It is matching the scholarship to who you are.
Wonderful. And where can people get in contact with you if they want to seek your advice or use your services?
Okay, there's 2 ways. They can go directly to my website, thescholarshipladydc.com, and it will eventually, over the next couple of months, be Scholarship Lady US, because I'm rebranding and I'm moving from the DC to the US. But you can still reach me for the next 3 months with with thescholarshipladydc.com, but it's going to link you to the new website anyway once you log on. And then if you want to just send me an email because you just like to get some future advice from me, you can email me at scholarshipladyyus@outlook.com. Again, scholarshipladyyus@outlook.com. And even on my website, it says talk to the scholarship lady. So even if you forgot the email, you can log on the website and it says talk to the scholarship lady, and you can just send me a link.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us on the show. This has been a pleasure.
I am looking at you feeling like this is really showing me how beautiful life can be after you really help a student.
That's true.
Really.
I did seek your help. I have your help.
Yeah.
I'm still getting your help. I'm learning still.
Yeah, because if you're trying to go get that PhD, you'll have to call scholarship lady.
I don't know how much school. I think I'm done with school.
Are you done?
I'm done with school.
Are you done?
I'm so done with school.
Are you so done, Quentin?
Yeah. I can teach myself all I need to know, I think.
Wow.
All I want to know, I would say that.
Anyway, it's just a blessing to be able to come back and give back to the community, but to give back to the community through a student that I helped, and that what I always tell them, you help me just as much as I help you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for helping me, and thank you for being on the show today.
Right. I look forward to staying in touch now.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
You can join us next week for our next episode of Booking Now, Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. As always, I'm going to leave you with these words. If no one has told you that they love you today, remember that I do, and I always will. Good night.